What's going on, Neon Nation? Welcome back to the Neon Arcade for some more Cyberpunk 2077 and Cyberpunk Red lore. Today we'll be going over the state of Night City and the world after the events of the Fourth Corporate War and the culmination of Cyberpunk 2020. If you don't have a good grasp on the events that have led up to Red, I suggest either reading Cyberpunk 2020 or watching some of the Night City history lore videos on the channel or on the Mad Queen's channel to get caught up to speed. The information in today's video comes from the world book and the brand new Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart Kit. You can find a link in the description and the pinned comment. Night City was inhabitable within 24 hours after the nuke went off at around 1200 feet in the Arasaka Towers. Many augmentations or filters installed in the bodies of the general populace meant that the people themselves had largely weathered the effects, but the city was a different story. The infrastructure of the city was in tatters and a large part of the housing reduced to brick and mortar. This led to an exodus of people out of the city as they moved into the north, south, and east to find food, water, and shelter that Night City was currently lacking. From 2023 to 2025, this is where Night City and its surroundings stood. The president of Night City, President Kress, blamed the alleged attack on Arasaka, claiming that Arasaka had blown up the corporate center in an area denial counterattack, but this was later put to rest. The actual weapon was supplied by a Militech team. Arasaka did have a thermonuclear device in the foundations of the tower, but no one actually knew about it and it's still at large. Arasaka was painted as a ruthless foreign entity, and their license to operate in the United States was revoked, its assets seized. Due to the resources being far and few between, Night City's reconstruction was denounced, and Kress believed it was beyond repair, but Night City found its way into a resurgence. The period of rebuilding between 2040 and 2045 was largely on the shoulders of outsourced Edgerunners and Nomad packs such as the Aldecaldos clan. In collaboration with Stormtech and having the knowledge on rebuilding efforts, temporary housing from shipping crates and modules were erected to house the fragmented population. Clearing the wreckage was a monumental task though, and tanks shoveled debris into the bay. This rebuilding process created relationships throughout the US and Night City, and as a collective unit they vowed to never place someone like President Kress into power in Night City. The effects of the event affected specific districts and areas within Night City differently. A hot zone wasteland stands where the central corporate zone formerly was, and although the radiation has subsided from this area, it still is present. The worst gangs, however, still frequent this location. The urban center was largely untouched, although breaks in the bay allowed the Pacific Ocean to periodically flood the area. The NCART subway still runs, but city planners are looking into raising the track into a monorail configuration, although it still lacks the resources during this time to get the job done. The urban center is an important area within Night City, and thus this area is a focal point for reconstruction efforts. Suburbs are overpacked with tent cities, and refugee camps filled with people hit hardest by the fallout. Megabuildings are under construction at this time to address the huge populations that are swallowed by crime and overcrowding. Ghost towns on the edges of Night City are now being transformed to accommodate Night City's most desperate. These were typically abandoned during the 2000-2020 period and were too far out from the city for protection from marauding factions, but under the stress of reconstruction, it was rebuilt with the help of some nomad families. Nomad families now have a bigger presence in the cyberpunk landscape during the time of the Red. With Night City and the surrounding area largely being under construction, and nomadic packs being well versed in trade routes and commerce, they are integrated fully into Night City's reconstruction. Gigantic megabuildings are the focus in the time of Red, which not only house massive amounts of people, but will contain entertainment, food courts, shopping malls, and central hubs. This is Night City's go-to plan. Politically, Night City is all over the place. It's run by nomad families, edgerunners, the old city government, and corporate interests. Naturally, there's a lot of voices at the table. Strong central leadership is missing, which generally means that disputes are settled in the streets instead of in meeting rooms. Central Night City houses two of Night City's hospitals, which although get routinely flooded, are the main source of medical care, along with scattered clinics and ripper dogs. There's also a body bank, large in part due to the casualties in this time period, which supports a big illicit body trade part business. In the time of the Red, the net as we know it today is essentially the digital Wild Wild West. Mastermind netrunner Bartmoss had released the RABIDs, a debilitating mass-spreading virus leading to the DataKrash. NetWatch, the global police of the net, have tried to ban netrunners from accessing the net, and net traffic is now localized to individual buildings or campuses to keep everything running smoothly. Law enforcement post-Fourth Corporate War and the fall of the towers were pretty dodgy. Because of limited law enforcement units, bribery was common and corruption standard in who law enforcement looks after. Corporates had a pretty firm grip because they have the money to offer policing units some very enticing bribes. From the old Night City police departments, only one initially stood the test of time, which is the MAX TAC or Psycho Squad. The MAX TAC was incorruptible and focused on tracking down and neutralizing cyberpsychos, as well as mitigating the damage caused by cyberpsychosis. And by 2030, MAX TAC had brought the NCPD back to life to bring uniform services across the city. By the end of this time period, the NCPD were efficient, dangerous, and reasonably moral. They follow a strict code and do not back down. Law and order in the time of Red can also be classified into security services, corporate security, personal bodyguards, and more freelance police. Thanks for watching, guys, and for more Cyberpunk Red lore, join Neon Nation by subscribing to the Neon Arcade.